Hello and welcome to the Gatewatch Cast. I am your host, Sanzo, and today we are not in Alexandria. We are in my home studio, and let's not dilly-dally and let's hop right into it. So today I would like to talk to you guys about the recent Zendikar Rising Commander decks. There's two decks. One is called Lance Ref. Let me just pop up the video or the image for you guys. And Lance Ref is a Lance Matter Naya deck. And the idea for this deck is to play a lot of land, trigger a lot of landfall ability, and use the Commander Obun Muldaya Ancestor. So, taking a look-see at Obun. Let's see if I can get him out. Oh no. Yes. Sorry, wow, that is so small. Give a second, folks. If I'm not mistaken, this is the one. Yes, okay. Anyway, Obun Moldaya Ancestor is 1 and Naya, legendary creature spirit for a 3/3. At the beginning of combat on your turn, up to one target land you control becomes an XX elemental creature with trample and haste until end of turn, where X is Obun's power. It is still a land. Second ability is landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So, the idea for this deck is to use your land as creatures and to use the landfall effect to put +1/+1 counters on any creature. So the idea is to play land, put a +1/+1 counter on Obun, and your land will become a XX elemental creature. Where X is Obun's power. So if it is a 4/4, your land will become a 4/4. And the idea for this deck is really smart. I do like this deck. And the way that it runs, it is so good. You want to play a lot of land effects, like any fetches. You don't have to go for expensive fetch. You can just go for cheap fetch, like Evolving Wilds. Play Evolving Wilds, that's 1. Tap it, fetch for a basic land, and that's 2. So already your Obun will be a 5/5. And, your lands will become a 5/5 with haste and trample. So that is a really cool effect for Obun. Another few things are some of the landfall effects for the deck, and there are a lot in here. Not much, but still, it is a good precon to have. And the other is Sneak Attack. And Sneak Attack is, a Dimir Commander deck. And the idea for this one is to swing in for Sneak Attack damage. Not really Sneak Attack, but swing in for unblockable damage. So, let me read you what Onowan the Ruined Thief is. So, Onowan the Ruined Thief is a 2 and Dimir, legendary creature rogue vampire for a 2 and 4. Other rogues you control get +1/+1. Whenever one or more rogues you control deal combat damage to a player, that player mills a card from each 1 damage dealt to them. If the player mills at least 1 creature card this way, you draw a card. To mill a card, a player puts the top card of their library into their grave. So anyway, this one is also a fun mechanic too, and how do I put this? This is mostly getting your creatures in to, put in some damage. The idea for this one is just to get a lot of unblockable creatures, like some of your rogues, like it's a Rogue Matters deck, Rogue Matters, so you want to get a lot of rogues in that are unblockable to hit in and mill your opponent. And since Onowan here gives a +1/+1, so any of your tiny rogues will get a +2/+2. I'm not 100% sure how I would play this personally, but whatever they give in this deck is pretty good. If I were to build this deck, I would probably put in some cards that allow in to go huge. Maybe some Rogue's Passage and find a rogue that can swing in for a lot of damage. You want to mill a lot of opponents and draw those cards. And I've played with this deck and I really enjoy the gameplay for this one. Both of the precons that came out of Zendikar Rising are good, and I believe they are worth the money in terms of gameplay, in terms of value for cards. There are a few that are really cool. I've got no idea what they are, but I have a few favorites. But anywho, let's get right into it. Yes? So anywho, here we go. So we start off the game with, well, let me speed things up for you guys. So we start off the game with a Naya's Panorama, and I play a Mirrored Landscape. Then we move on to Swamp and so on. So the start of the game is pretty slow and whatnot, and you can clearly tell that we're trying to buy for time, trying to search for our lands and whatnot. As precons, this is an okay start. This is an okay start for precons. If I were to modify the deck, I would probably put in a lot of mana rocks for the Dimir deck, because, well, as you can see later on in the game, the Naya deck will have that advantage of putting lands way ahead of time, and that's going to matter in the long run. So anyway, Wilson just played Fertilite. Fertilite is a 2 and green creature elemental for a 0/0. Fertilite enters the battlefield with 2+1/+1. 2+1/+1 counter on it, and it has this ability: 1 and green, remove a +1/+1 counter from Fertilite. Target player search their library for a basic land card, put into the battlefield, tap, then shuffle your library. So Fertilite and Obun works well together. They have this synergistic combo where you can infinitely look for basic lands and put them into, well, your field. And since Obun says you can put one +1/+1 counter on a creature, well, if you do it on Fertilite, he will always keep those counters on him. But anyhow, let's move on. So this, the start of the game, like I mentioned before, is a bit slow, but you can clearly tell that we are going to, well, pick up speed and have a lot of fun soon. I'm gonna skip a few things here. So next up will be Together Forever. Together Forever is one of those cool cards that when Together Forever enters the battlefield, support 2, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature up to 2 targets, and it says pay 1 target creature with a counter on it. When that creature dies this turn, return that card to the to its owner's hand. So this is kind of a safety net, and this is cool, especially for protecting your lands. No, not protecting your land, but to protect Obun or any creature that has a +1/+1 counter on it. So I just cracked my Mirrored Landscape to search out 2 swamps. And well, I think here is where I am going to, well, play a monster or a creature. And it's nothing big, but you can clearly tell that this is the idea for the deck. So I played a Invisible Stalker. So this is what I mentioned before, that okay, we need to have creatures that have unblockables and make them rogue or have them be rogues. So this is going to be a slow start, but but the gameplay is going to be really cool. So anyway, I'm going to skip a bit. So Wilson here just played his commander, and well, Obun is going to this is going to be fun. Like, take a look, see at what Obun is going to do, and this is one of those things where if you're in a multiplayer game, it's not going to be that impactful, but if you're in a one-on-one, Obun is going to wreck house. One of the few things that I think you should put in an Obun deck is the artifact land, Darksteel Citadel. That is a land that produces generic mana, but it has indestructible. And that is going to protect that's going to be your beater. If you don't have, if your land is indestructible, nothing's going to get through it. And you have at least some kind of protection to swing in. And Wilson just swing me for 3 with his planes. So it's my turn to pull out my commander, Anoa, the Ruined Thief. So the idea for this one is pretty cool. So whenever a rogue hits or whenever a rogue deals damage to a player, the affected player will mill cards out of their deck. Since Invisible Stalker is 2, so Wilson will mill 2. And since he mill a creature, I get to draw a card. So you can just imagine how great this is if we are going to be in a multiplayer game and we have a lot of opponents. And since all my creatures are unblockable, that is going to be awesome, where I can just swing in for damage and just, have a lot of good interactions. So on Wilson's side, he's just building up land. Like, you can clearly tell that, okay, this is how much he has. And that is just insane. Like, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lands already. And thanks to Frederick, he just, keep collecting more and more lands. And because of the landfall trigger from Obun, he will just keep getting a +1/+1 counter on it. And Wilson just plays Circuitous Route. And any card that have this kind of effect that allows you to search for more lands is going to be a powerhouse in this deck. And since green is well known for those kind of effects, you can clearly tell that, okay, Circuitous Route comes in, pay 4, and you put 2 lands onto the battlefield. Tap. Circuitous Route allows you to look for 2 basic lands or 2 gates. And in this case, Wilson picks gate, so he can color fix his way. And this triggers Obun. And Obun puts a +1/+1 counter on target creature. And Wilson decides to put the 2 counters onto Obun himself. The reason why is because he would like to swing for big damage, because Obun is already at 3, and with him having 3 +1/+1 counters on them, he will swing for 6. So that means he already have a 6/6 beater, and I don't have a blocker for this. I could block with my commander, but remember, the land has trample. So that's not good for me. So if I were to play against this deck, I would put in a lot of spot removals, like single target removals that are creature based, like destroy target creature and so on. Or just use things like, how do I put this? Just use blockers that have Death Touch, because the land is still a creature. So doing so will make Wilson lose lands. So those are the downside of the game and so on. So I play Distant Melody. So this is kind of a desperation move, because Distant Melody in this game right now doesn't really help me. So it is a 4, 3 and 1 blue sorcery card, and it says choose a creature type. Draw a card for each permanent you control of that type. So I have 2 rogues and I just spent 4 for 2. Initially it is not a good move, but I needed that answer to get some bodies on the board. Wilson here has a really perfect start. Like his board state is perfect right now. Like I can't do anything about this. If I were to try and get rid of something, I would probably get rid of the Fidelit and also Obun. And yeah, clearly right now I can't do anything. So I am at 8 hands right now, and I need to discard. So Wilson just activated Fidelit, comes in with a land, triggers it, and gives the +1/+1 counter to Fidelit. So you can see here, this is an endless loop where he can just have it going and going. Like this deck in terms of land ramp is okay. How would I deal with this deck? Well, one of the few things that you could do is play Armageddon to destroy all lands, but that's a sour note. Like, I wouldn't say I won't recommend doing it. It is a good answer to deal with this kind of decks where land matters. But, it's one of those things where you pick your battles. So, Wilson just played Spore Mount, and it is a 3/2 creature fungus where whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 green sub-rolling creature token onto the battlefield. It doesn't have landfall, but it still have the same ability as landfall. So, what you can clearly tell that, okay, this deck wants to play lands, wants to get them onto the battlefield, and wants them to get benefits. One of the few things that I always say, what's the best thing in Magic? Drawing. The other is playing lands. So, every time you play your lands, you get a bonus. Fidelit doesn't do nothing much, but Spore Mount will get you a Spore token. Obun will get you a +1/+1 counter on the creature, and so on. So you can clearly tell that this deck is going to be awesome. I guess you could play with Avenger of Zendikar in this deck to get your planet tokens to become big, because every time you play a land, you get a +1/+1 counter on those planet tokens. And you can clearly tell if Wilson would play Avenger of Zendikar now, he will get a lot of planet tokens. And if those planet token has haste, and he play Fidelit, you get the idea. This deck is so much fun. And I am getting a trashing on this. Maybe I didn't shuffle right, maybe I didn't get a good draw, but this deck is a lot of fun. Anywho, let's speed up the game a bit. Sorry about that. So, if you would like to buy your commander sets, why not visit your local LGS? If you're in the Johor Bahru area, why not visit Alexandria Bookstore? Anyway, I just cast Consuming Aberration. So, Consuming Aberration in this deck is just awesome. Sorry, I have to pause the video because I need to explain how awesome this card is. So anyway, Consuming Aberration is a 3 Dimir creature horror with star and star. Consuming Aberration's power and toughness are equal to the number of cards in your opponent's grave. So, if you have 3 opponents, and if they have 5 cards in their grave, Consuming Aberration's power is going to be 15. And that is awesome. Anyway, Consuming Aberration has a second ability. Whenever you cast a spell, each opponent reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a land card. Then put those cards into their graveyard. So not only that, you're going to mill for the rogues attacking, this guy will just beat down people. One of the few things that this thing is going to be weak is that he doesn't have hexproof, he doesn't have indestructible. He is kind of a squishy monster. Big squishy monster, by the way. But whenever you cast a spell, so that's the fun part. If you cast low CMC spells, or if you manage to do an infinite with how do I put this? If you manage to do an infinite with things coming into play, I think the Midnight Guard combo. Midnight Guard is a white creature, and Retraction Helix is an instant that targets creature. You can tap it to bounce a creature back to their hand, and you play this with Omnitopter. So you cast Omnitopter, you tap the Midnight Guard, and you bounce Omnitopter. You play Omnitopter, you untap the Midnight Guard, and continue this pattern until, Consuming Aberration deletes all of your opponent's grave. So anyway, I tried to do something with this, but I think you can clearly tell that it's a little bit too late. I'm at 20 and Wilson is at 38. I just only dealt him 2 damage, and the way that the board state is going, I am not going to do anything. I am not going to do any damage here. But I'm just putting bodies on so I can at least have blockers. The next card I play is Zulaport Cutthroat, and Zulaport Cutthroat is a really awesome card. It's whenever Zulaport Cutthroat or another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. And it is a rogue, and this helps you with the I need to swing in and deal damage kind of thing. And since Anoa gives a +1/+1, your Zulaport Cutthroat is a 2/2. Other than that, there's nothing much I can do here. Yes, I'm just going to swing in just to look for answers. So Wilson takes 2, mills 2, and there's a creature and I get to draw a card. This is okay. And my Aberration gets another, becomes a 11/11. Oh, by the way, Aberration is not, does not have a +1/+1. It is a 11/11 according to how many cards are in the opponent's grave. So things like, how do I put this? If you were to exile all cards in opponent's grave with a, Ashok, the newer one, Aberration would perish because his power level and his power and toughness will go to 0. So, by this point, the game is already set and match, and you can clearly tell that I am going to lose. But, let's speed up a bit. So Wilson untaps and taps 3 to cast out an Abzan Falconer. And Abzan Falconer is really cool in this deck. So, Abzan Falconer is a 2 and a white. And it is a creature human soldier for a 2/3. It has Outlast, pay a white, and tap. Put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has flying, and this already screws me up. I was ready to block, and I was ready to chump block because his Anoa is there. I can jump block the Anoa, I can jump block these spores and the Spawn Mount, and also if Further League wants to go in. So with this, I'm a bit miffed and I'm in a very bad spot. But still, I can block, no problem. I can just jump block the, Spawn Mount and so on. And maybe the land, yes, the land was the other problem. But Wilson here plays something smart. He plays a really interesting card that I don't think we use that much. I'm not going to spoil it, but let's just wait and see. So anyway, Wilson declares attack, and his forest is a 7/7, and that's scary. Swings in. No, not yet. Okay, still thinking, Wilson. All right. Okay, let's pick it up. Okay, now he's counting, and whenever you count, it is never good. It is never good. So anyway, he's going to swing in huge, and he plays Naya Charm. So Naya Charm is Naya and it's instant, and it's choose one. Naya Charm deal 3 damage to target creature. Return target card from a grave to a owner's hand. Tap all creatures target player controls. And with that, I goes down to 0 and I'm done. And yes, if I was not blocked, I could have somehow managed to at least eke in a little bit of gameplay, but nah, this really did me in. And looking at the gameplay, this was a lot of fun. I really enjoy both of them. And if I were to pick one of them, I would go for the Dimir. I know the Dimir deck didn't really perform, but there's another video where Wilson played it and it was good. So, what can I say about both decks? From my experience playing with them, if you want a lot of interactions, or if you want to feel like you're doing something, go for the Naya deck. The Naya deck allows you to do stuff on your turn and play things that have value. You play a land, and if Obun is out, you get a +1/+1 counter on it, and then you can swing every turn. So that makes you feel like you're doing something. And if you have stuff like Nissa that turns your land into creatures, like those kind of cards really work well with Obun. And if you want to play hard, swinging and sneaky and stuff, or having meal tactics, Anoa works well. Anoa's game plan is to mill out opponents, and if you can get a few drops in, have Anoa on, you're gonna mill opponents out, and that is the fun part of this deck. I am gonna try and play with the deck unmodded, just to get a feel for them and see what are the pros and cons. But from my brief play with them, I can already tell that both of them are great. The R&D, Wizards R&D did a really good job for both decks, and I enjoy playing both of them. And in an environment where you're playing one-on-one, you can clearly tell that Anoa is going to be the better choice here, because Obun has the disadvantage of milling out. And there are a few cards inside there that allows you to play lands from the grave, but they're not much and they're too risky, because if you don't have that in hand and it mills out, you're kind of screwed. And in terms of powerhouse, Obun is the one for you. But anywho, those are my thoughts for both decks. And well, like I mentioned before, if you would like to get them, go to your local LGS. If you're in the Johor Bahru area, head down to Alexandria Bookstore. Links will be in the links below in the YouTube, in the show more. And yeah, go check them out and go get them. They're not that expensive. I think both decks will cost you about 100, and I'm gonna spitball here and just say 170 ringgit for both, probably. I'm not 100% sure. And they're fun. They're fun. Maybe not that much. Maybe what? Let me see. Because when I got it for pre-order, and the pre-order price is a bit cheaper. Yes. When I got it for pre-order, it was about 116, and well, your mileage may vary. Maybe you'll get it around 120 or 125 because, well, you didn't pre-order and whatnot. Sorry about that. But still, it is a fun deck. They are good for beginners. I would say that if you want to have a lot of fun and not do a lot of modifying, go for the Naya deck, because Naya allows you to get more lands in, and with more lands you can have more plays. So yes, those are my final thoughts. But anywho, combo of the day, I think I mentioned the Midnight Guard and Retraction Helix combo. Let me see if I can pull it out. I'm so strange. Yes, I have it here. So, yay. So, the Midnight Guard Retraction Helix combo and also a 0-cost creature, the Omnitopter. So, like I mentioned before, Midnight Guard is a 2-1 human soldier for a 2/3. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, untap Midnight Guard. So that's on its own, it does nothing, but you want to combo it off with Retraction Helix. Retraction Helix is a 1 blue for an instant. Until end of turn, target creature gets tap. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Oh, that's good. And you combo it off with Omnitopter. So Omnitopter is a 0-cost artifact creature, Topter, for a 0/2. It has flying, and that's about it. So you combo this off with the what creature did I say again? Consuming Aberration. So Consuming Aberration says whenever you cast a spell, each opponent reveals card from the top of their library until they reveal a land card and put those cards into their grave. And this allows Aberration to gain more power. And you don't really need to play with Aberration. You could play with Phosphorus, the god from Born of the Gods, or the Terrace block, or you could play with Impact Tremor. Both of them have the ability of whenever a creature enters the battlefield, deal damage to each opponent by, if it's Phosphorus, by 2, and if it's Impact Tremor, it's 1. So you can infinitely burn your opponent with that combo. Another way you could do it is with, if I'm not mistaken, it is a Khans of Tekir card, Altar of the Brood. Yes, Altar of the Brood is whenever a permanent enters the battlefield, each opponent mills their library for 1. And if you do this with the Midnight Guard Midnight Guard Retraction Helix combo and Omnitopter, you will mill everybody out. So yeah, it is a mean combo, but it's not that easy to get. You have to remember that your creatures, you have two, you must get 2 of them, and also an instant. If you are playing in blue, probably, I don't know. I know that Mystical Tutor will allow you to look for an instant sorcery, put it on top of your library. For creatures, that is another story. Especially the Midnight Guard. Like if Omnitopter, you can just play one of the mages, and you can get a 1 or lower CMC artifact and put it into your hand. For the Midnight Guard, I got no idea how to get it except by drawing it out. If you're playing in black, there's tutors, so that's the way, I guess. But anywho, that is the episode for this week. I hope you guys have a good day, and well, thank you for watching. I've been rambling for a while now. Anyway, catch us next week with another fun episode of the Gatewatch Cast, and I'll see you guys later.